mic check, mic check, mic check. Is it possible? We don't know. And here we go. And we don't have a, let's see. Checking one thing. Checking on one thing and then getting ready to go. Excellent. All right, 3 and the 2 and the 2 and 1. There we go. Hi. It's morning. How are you? I drove all night. I'm fine. Yes, cats woke me up and stepped on my testicles to get me up to feed them. But I'm happy about that. I'm glad to be doing a show with you this fine morning because there's been a lot going on, and not the least of which is you lovely chat folks are here. Welcome. I might even be here early enough to hit the 666 mark. We got 584 in what I can see right now. So hit that like button, bounce us up there in the live feeds around all the social media sites. If you're on Facebook, you know how you can give an emoji as a response to something? Give us the big angry emoji. Just have me go, because and for all of its like inclusive and diversity and happy, super, I don't know, techie future of tomorrow thing, the algorithm favors you being pissed off more than anything else because apparently it's the stickiest emotion. So if you can, fire that one up. That's a good time. Yes, and rest in peace, Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman to ever serve on the Supreme Court, died today. She was 93, I believe. Served with honor and distinction, and yeah, just really impressive career and historic human being. So there you go. At some point, today and probably tomorrow, maybe over the weekend, people will start going over, and I'll talk about this on the radio show, some of her biggest cases and the shift that she helped make possible. Now, yes, of course, we'll get to that in just 1 second. If Alyosha, everybody's already, you guys are already on it. You're so on it. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Just happened. George Santos expelled from the hizzy. He is no longer, technically speaking, in the hizzy. He is out of the hizzy. He has been... This is a shot of him, I guess, because as soon as the vote was over, he bugged the fuck out and got in a car and drove away. Can I just say, as somebody who's been on the good side of fame for the last couple of decades, since Talk Soup, Queer as Folk, and Lab Rat stuff, like I have a decent amount of, I run into people all the time who know something I've done, but all the time. And it's always lovely. I guess people are going to walk up and go, dude, where's my car sucked? Or whatever, because why would you go out of your way? Some people do, I guess. There's enough jerks in the world, but most of them are online, but nobody in person anyways. And people are just lovely. I just like people, and it's great. And maybe my interaction with human beings, I'm so comfortable and I like people so much, which maybe sets me apart. I get it. From my compatriots and my my fellow travelers in the art world. Now I don't have an entourage. I have friends, and sometimes they come see my shows and we hang out afterwards, or we hang out before the show, get a bite to eat, and then go someplace afterwards. But I don't have an entourage. I would feel like a dick if I had an entourage. It's very weird. Like, I understand if you're in the process of something, having an assistant all the time around just because you're going to need one for certain things. I get that. Like when I was directing on Lab Rats and acting in the stuff, I had my assistant like present on set because there was just so many moving parts. That's fine. This fucker has an entourage. There's like 8 people around this dickhead. Some people are reporters. I will be honest. 3 of the people following him are reporters, but he had like 2 people waiting in his car, and there's like this little gang around him. Oh, my mug is the Apollo 11. It's a commemorative mug of Apollo 11. That's all. I'm drinking this in honor of our dear friend Carl Alessi, who's in the chat quite often. He might not be in here right now or today, but cheers, Carl. Um, yeah, it's just it's the Apollo 11 command module. Yeah, it's Columbia. There you go. Yeah, you're your cat's assistant. Yeah, aren't we all? So, anyways, that's pretty great. That's a good time. Mr. Santos is the first person to be expelled from the House without first being convicted of a federal crime or supporting the Confederacy. Now, yesterday we watched hilarious arguments about this, and most of them from people who think they're next on the list, who think that they're, if you don't have to be convicted of a crime now, uh, the Gateses of the world are in deep shit. So good times. And there's also someone, if I may, let's see if I can find this. Where is this? Yeah, this dickhead. This is Scott Perry. Yet another member of the Free Dummy Caucus, or the Freedom Caucasians, and there's this news story that's come out, started breaking in the last 24 hours, that that show his text messages between the White House and Meadows and all these people helping to coordinate on the ground in the Capitol as they were going to snag the vote and try to throw it back to the states and all this kind of shit. And he in his conversations with Eastman, he's just downright fucking pseudo-Christian about it. Like, everything is like, you're the man for God's plan and I'm your stand. And his back and forth, I have to say, a lot of people were a lot of pearl clutching yesterday, and rightly so to some degree, because what he was attempting to do and the fact that he was trying to do it was actually awful. But let me remind everybody that he's a stupid person. His cell phone was seized by the FBI, and they've had these things, and it's part of the court records around this stuff. And yeah, Scott Perry's dumb. He's not a smart person, and we should all cheers to everybody. Enjoy your coffee and your whatever beverage you're having right now. Congratulations that the one real shot at insurrection or a coup in the United States was run by complete fucking morons like Scott Perry. This guy is so dumb and so misguided and so self-involved that there was no fucking way it was going to work. Because here's one of the things I think that is crucial in any coup or any insurrection or any plan to take over. And I don't want to give anybody any notes, but it won't matter because people like Scott Perry are so fucking stupid, they'd never actually be able to pull it off, even if I wrote out a plan on how to make it work. There's some things where you're like, I don't want to give these guys any ideas. It wouldn't help. It absolutely wouldn't help. Even if they had the perfect blueprint for it, they would fuck it up. All right, so yeah. Scott Perry is so dumb he thinks elemental P is one letter. So they got his cell phone amongst a bunch of other people, and largely because they got the receiving end, because they got Eastman's phone and all this kind of shit. And he was one of the coordinating people inside the House on January 6th and in the lead up to it. This is from he's in he's Pennsylvania. So here is let's see. The documents detail a lower court's decision on what records seized from Perry's personal cell phone after the attempted January 6, 2021 insurrection are shielded by exception from disclosure for legislative speech and debate. Among more than 2,000 records to which U.S. District Judge Beryl Howell granted Jack Smith access are exchanges between Perry with state reps Mike Jones, Dawn Kiefer, Seth Grove, and state senators Chris Dush and Kristen Phillips Hill and Doug Mastriano. Each was among the 64 Pennsylvania lawmakers who signed a letter to the Commonwealth's congressional delegation urging them to reject electors appointed by then Governor Tom Wolf. Suspects of the exchanges included plans for legislative audit of the election, including how to preserve and evaluate voting machine data, and plans for the state Senate to request Wolf and the Secretary of State, Kathy Bookhal. Bookhal. Ooh, it's a very good name, Bookhal. I like saying that. Bookhal. To audit the election results, the unsealed opinion says. Perry also contacted lawmakers to connect them with members of former Trump's campaign and its attorney about a whistleblower who served as an information tech analyst for the Pennsylvania Office of Administration, who would purportedly provide information about voter fraud and legislative hearing with Representatives' Dominion voting systems, which supplied voting things. Examples of communication, by the way, which never, ever became anything. Like this motherfucker, like there were so many of these like Dominion whistleblower guys who didn't know anything about any of the actual facts of the voting stuff. It all boiled down to, for the most part, it all boiled down to that one asshole that we looked at when Mike Pillow, who is, I mean, if you don't know, is an
asshole.
And Mike Pillow, of all people, had this guy who was running like this secondary algorithm. I came up with an equation that shows me that it is statistically impossible for these people to have voted for Joe Biden because of this number of voters showing up. Okay, never mind the fact that the voter turnout was enormous because of the availability of mail-in voting, both for Trump and for Biden. One of the biggest reasons why Trump can brag about the fact that he got way more votes in the second time than the first time was because voting was easier. One of the other reasons why I believe, personally, in my totally right opinion, that Donald Trump got more votes is because he did his best to try and rig parts of it in states that he felt he was on shaky ground, specifically Texas and Florida. He was very nervous about those states. And between the villagers and other people who were busted voting 4 times for that motherfucker, the only fraud that was found where it was like more than one person coordinating. The only people ever arrested were people who voted for Trump. The only people who voted for Democrats were people like that shouldn't legally have voted for Democrats, were technically people who had been let out of jail, were on probation, thought they had gotten their voting rights back, and voted basically accidentally. All of those cases, they were treated like shit for about a week and a half, and then it was all punted. Because it didn't matter. There was one in like 3 people that I can only think of 2, but I'm assuming there's at least a third. Federal can be sued in civil daily January 6th. Yes, we'll get to that in just one second, Ali Osher. That's amazing. Yeah, Trump can be sued by people who were injured in Jan 6. Bye-bye. Yes, and they were all black people. That's true, Greg Gillis. Now, I'm assuming that perhaps maybe, there was one white person in there, just for shits and giggles, just because of majority versus minority. But it seems that they went after these people in particular. The assumption being that black people vote for Democrats and white people vote for Trump or something like that, which is, by the numbers, not how it shook out. But we'll get to there in a minute. Anyways, the court filing shows Perry contacted conservative attorney and Trump advisor Julie Strauss-Levin about whistleblower protection for someone in the Pennsylvania Department of State. The investigation led to an August 1st indictment against Trump. Blah, blah. Perry has not been charged. The Jan 6 committee subpoenaed Perry in 2022. Yeah. It's just kind of just sitting out there, isn't it? Just kind of... In an attempt to appoint former Assistant Attorney General Jeff Clark as acting Attorney General as part of a plan to keep Trump in office by telling officials in states where Biden had won that they could send electors to Washington for Trump instead. Perry refused to testify. The committee found Perry had tried to help Trump overturn the election results. The unsealed court filing includes a text exchange between Perry and Clark in which Perry texted Clark that POTUS seems very happy with him. Clark responded, "I'm praying this makes me quite nervous, and I wonder if I'm worthy or ready." Perry replied, "You're the man. I have confirmed it. God does what he does for a reason." Did you still feel that after Trump fucking left with his head bowed on the fucking plane and then got sued? All of these lawsuits, they're part of God's plan. I don't even know why you fight them. Yeah. Seahawk says, thanks for the super chat. How about criminally negligent homicide, depraved indifference for Ashley Babbitt? I agree. In a normal situation, you'd probably get relatives of her, or or direct relatives suing about that. The problem is they all support Trump, so they wouldn't. They would, I guess, go after what, Nancy Pelosi for not calling in Trump's National Guard troops from Texas that were there when he throws the electors out, gets new electors, brings and uses the Insurrection Act to nationalize the National Guard, I guess, and make them his shock troops on the steps of the Capitol. And since she didn't fucking fall for it and thought it was bad optics to have a bunch of soldiers on the fucking Capitol steps while his people were out there, never thinking that they would actually attack the goddamn place, or that was his actual plan, which it absolutely was. All the people, the only way you could sue for it is that the cops and the soldiers should have been there to stop her from doing shit that got her killed, which was not depraved indifference. It was actually done for fucking reasonable reasons. They did have shock troops when they heard BLM was coming. Yeah. Well, technically speaking, the only time you can say they used anything close to shock troop stuff, unless you're just shocked by troops in general, was when they tear gassed the protesters to clear the square for Trump to do his walk to the church. That idea, which is a debatable piece of detail, anyways. But the other one is, let's see if it's this one. Yeah, get out of here. Why is that screen black? Quit it. I'll reload it. I don't know why. Here you go. Shocking. Former prosecutor suspicious of MAGA lawmakers back channel to the DOJ. This is, again, this is about Scott Perry stuff. And see, it's got Andrew Weissman was on there. He goes, I'm curious, would it be the normal process to go from the executive to Congress back to executive to get emergency security clearance like this? Asked anchor Ari Melber. And if not, what might that tell you about an investigative lens when you look at this? Well, of course, it's not at all commonplace, and it's not commonplace to be doing this with respect to somebody who was in the civil division and part of the head of the environmental division, which is just where he was at the time. It had nothing to do with the Department of Justice looking at potential voter fraud. This is not his purview, and that has been very, very clear. So this is really because they wanted Jeff Clark to issue a letter that is false on the part of the Department of Justice, saying they were looking at fraud allegations. And this was supposed to stop everything. And Perry and this dickhead were part of the team that was going to grind it all to a halt inside as the attack happened outside. And, the one smart area might be in how they covered their tracks, or if they intentionally set up a wall of, plausible deniability for themselves around these kind of things. It's hard to say, or if they were just dumb or kept in the dark specifically by the people who were trying to carry this shit off. Again, it doesn't matter because they're all too stupid. Even if they had the details, it wouldn't have helped. Without the details, it certainly didn't help. If they were trying to coordinate it and hide it or whatever, the only thing that they've been able to do is stay in office. Now, Scott Perry's been for a little bit, and it's interesting that he's been the front, like the spokesperson of the Freedom Caucus since Chip Roy's kind of lost favor with a bunch of people because he's being such a dick that everybody around them is like, enough of this fucker. So at one point he was if you watch the kind of ever-flowing point of the Freedom Caucus, it's almost like they're always jockeying to see who represents the dummies, right? And hold on, I'm going to put you guys in your chat room. That there's somebody, that kind of, stands out temporarily. And most of the time, at a certain point, it was MTG, it was Gosar, it was fucking, it was certainly, Gates a lot. Moore is it seemed like he was sort of a lieutenant in the way he talked about stuff, not actually the lead. He was just the loudest, but he wasn't speaking on behalf of the group. He was like the voice of the gripe in the group, if that makes sense. But who spoke as the main leader? And Perry was one of these guys. He's kind of like the Mike Johnson of the Freedom Caucus for a long time. Like, who the fuck is that guy? And then he got pushed to the front of the line in this shit. And then, hi, better late than never, Melissa. Hi, welcome. And by the way, like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Hi, all that stuff that I'm supposed to say that I always forget to say. Venmo. And super chats are welcome. Please support the show any way they can. And blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm terrible at that shit, but you got to do it. So I got to do it. You just got it. Looking for the dummies of dumbs. Well, that's exactly it. Perry got made capo because nobody else fucking wanted it. And yeah, Flappers was great last night. They just sent me the video as I was leaving, so I will download it and then post it later today for the patrons. And then I helped Barb and everybody there, so their streaming setup is going to be back online very soon. I walked them through the gear. It was a good time. It's my second calling as a tech person, and that I just seem to like fly in for everybody. Now that said, one of the big things, and maybe they pushed Scott Perry to the front just to make an ass out of him. And by the way, we're going to be talking about what's going on in Gaza right now. The truce is effectively over, and there's a lot of action there. We will also be talking about one of the biggest, weirdest jumps in AI. And I have to, let's see, I'm going to bring that up real quick because I want to have that in the background, because this is one of those things where it's they just eventually they always fucking come around to what I've been saying. It's just funny. And yeah, there it is. This is funny. But we'll go to the next one. Is this one is that the Freedom Caucus has just surrendered. Our dear friends at Crooks and Liars have an article about it, and it's fantastic, as always, because they're fantastic and we love them. And well spotted, Joan, in this article, that they looked at the little press gaggle that the Free Dummies put together, and what they effectively said was, in their kvetching about what they could fight for and what they could get passed and what they could get up to the Senate and all this stuff, they just kind of shrugged their shoulders at the end of it and just called it a fucking day. And they stuck to the budgetary numbers that Biden put forward. They just know they're not going to be able to make any moves on it at all. So this is from Freedom Caucus and an article on Crooks and Liars. A really strange thing happened to House Republicans Wednesday. The Freedom Caucus apparently conceded their favorite weapon, government shutdowns. Scott Perry of Pennsylvania is, again, they're whenever it's like, apparently the news is getting really bad and these guys don't give a shit about Scott Perry, or they just don't want to be the person out front. I don't even think they're sacrificing him. I think they're just cowardly retreating back away from talking about this shit. Who chairs the far-right caucus, announced at a press conference that they would accept the top-line budget of $1.59 trillion as agreed to by Joe Biden and former Speaker Kevin McCarthy in May. It's still too much for many of us, but was agreed to around Memorial Day was this Fiscal Responsibility Act, number of $1.59 trillion. Perry said most of the House voted for it, most of the Senate voted for it. That's where we have to be. Don't be adding stuff on it. So their big fucking win that they're going to claim. This is just fucking gorgeous. These assholes. Oh my God. Just lame. Just don't be adding stuff to it. So the win that they're going to be selling, Chip Roy was bitching, give me something I can tell my constituents that we did or whatever. Okay, this is what they're going to say. Here it comes. You ready? This is what they're going to sell their constituents. We didn't add on top of the giant budget at all. That's going to be their thing. To the wish list that Biden put forward in the Fiscal Responsibility Act that he cleared and got signed and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, they didn't add more to Biden's wish list that he got passed. Just to be clear, Perry is referring to the same agreement that ostensibly kicked off the whole movement to oust McCarthy. It was supposedly all about spending and his refusal to rein it in. When McCarthy passed a continuing resolution with Democrats' help in September, one that didn't cut programs by nearly 1/3 as Republicans had demanded, that was supposedly the last straw. Now they're just giving in? Reporters had a hard time believing it too. In follow-up questioning, Perry reiterated it. $1.59 trillion is too expensive for many of us, but we realize that $1.47 trillion is not going to happen. The House overwhelmingly supported $1.59, and so did the Senate. That's a Freedom Caucus leader accepting reality, a minor miracle. I don't even think they're accepting reality. I think they're just retreating. Because here's the thing. Again, the blue states pay for the red states, and especially and the blue districts in places like Pennsylvania pay for the red fucking districts. If you'll recall, in Pennsylvania, the only real legal challenge around the vote that came out that was part of Rudy Giuliani's fight to overturn the results in Pennsylvania was the story of two men who were denied the right to vote because their mail-in ballot was rejected in a red county. They both voted for Donald Trump, and their vote was thrown out because their signature wasn't eligible, or wasn't legible, beg your pardon, wasn't legible, and the Republican that was the judge in this particular threw their votes out. Basically, because they were throwing out mail-in ballots hand over fist, trying to dent Biden's lead, because they knew that most of the mail-in ballots would be for Biden. So they threw out a bunch of Republicans, a bunch of Trump votes got thrown out too, because if they could, they would have just dumped all the batches of mail-in ballots and only counted the ones where people voted in person, because it was still the fucking middle of COVID, and the only people dumb enough to just go, throw caution to the wind and go vote in public were Trumpies, right? Who didn't believe it was a real threat, but also believe it's a fucking bioweapon. I don't know how that shit works, but whatever. Anyways, these two guys voted for Trump, and their votes were thrown out. And they sued with Rudy Giuliani not to get their vote counted, because in places like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, they would cure ballots. They had the staff available to cure ballots, where they would call people up and go, is this your ballot? Did you sign this? Did you vote this way? And they go, yes. And can you come in and show a piece of ID and let us count your vote? And they go, yes. And they cured tens of thousands of votes, if not over 100,000 over the course of the election, just to make sure people who really voted the way they did, and their vote would be counted. If your signature was illegible, they would let you at least give you a chance to have your vote counted. And these guys, they did not sue to get their vote cured so that their two more votes would be added to Trump's. Oh no. They sued so that everybody else would get the same treatment they did. What they wanted was all the cured ballots to be thrown out. Yeah, that was the lawsuit. These two fuckers, with Rudy Giuliani in this crowd, wanted, because a Republican in their district threw their vote out without ever making a fucking phone call and asking them if they really voted this way, curing their ballot, instead of getting theirs counted, they wanted everyone who had an illegible signature or some other anomaly that was cured in any of these big cities, they wanted their votes thrown out. What the fuck? Who in the world thinks that's like a viable option? You don't get to toss out everyone else's vote because you were denied a right. It's like a felon being mad that he can't get a gun, so he wants this to overturn the Second Amendment in his state because he can't have a gun. Like to use an analogy that our Republican friends would understand, that's just based on idiocy. That was really the court case. These two fuckers wanted everyone else's vote thrown out. That's the quality of the insurrection intellect in Pennsylvania, which is, again, why I am not now, and nor was I ever, afraid that it would actually work. Because everyone involved in it, especially Scott Perry, are fucking stupid. Now, I take it back. Not all of them are stupid. A good portion of them are dumb. The dumb ones just are idiots. They just don't understand anything. Scott Perry might be one of those people, but at the very least, if he hid his shit, he's stupid. He's stupid enough to think he would get away with it. I gotta say though, the bizarre nerve of filing that shit in this case was just it boggled my mind. I remember when it came up, and they were, because you didn't. I didn't know these guys had voted for Trump. I didn't, details were slow in coming out on purpose from Giuliani and their team about this. These two men were denied their right to vote, blah, blah, blah. And because their mail-in votes for Trump were not counted. Like, yeah, in a red district where that motherfucker, some Republican, was throwing out mail-in votes, like every single one that wasn't even, immediately recognizable, throw it out. I don't give a shit. They go because the majority of them are Democrats, and that's the only way we're going to make a dent in the big cities is if all these red counties coordinate together to throw out mail-in votes based on, if somebody doesn't dot the I in their own name, even if that's how their signature is written. Yeah. So, I mean, these assholes. But the fact that these guys just totally backed down and aren't going to shut down the government. Because, I mean, when are they going to do it? When are you going to do it? June of next year? You out of your fucking mind? While Trump's, days away from being found guilty and put in fucking jail, what are you going to do? Shut down the government in protest? Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, we got Boston Brian and Texas Paul in the chat. Hi, guys. Love you guys. And by the way, both of them have Patreons, and both of them, you should follow them on all their social medias, except of course on TikTok, which is evil and malware. But I'm never gonna bend on that. I had to have an intervention with Charlene last night about TikTok, for fuck's sake. Charlene, please don't take my man. Thanks very much. Thanks. I'm a big fan of this mug. Yeah. I'm having bulletproof coffee, trying to stay awake. It was a long drive last night, kids, and I did not stop to take a nap. I went straight through. And there were a couple of times I was like, I should probably pull over. And so I pulled over, went to the bathroom, got a snack, and the snack like woke me up enough to go like, all right, I'm good for a half an hour, and then I'll check in again, and did just fine. So we need a fucking train. It's 4 hours. It's a 4-hour drive. So I drove 4 hours so that I could do a show with you guys today without dealing with too many technical difficulties. It's more about it's half about how much I love you guys and fucking half of how much I don't like the goddamn internet. The other house. That's right. Texas Paul is on an hour before me on in the morning. And he's on. Are you Texas Paul? Is he on? You're on every morning, correct? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Boston Brian and Texas Paul are both in the chat. We're gonna get these guys. No lot lizards. No, I don't know where. I wouldn't know where to look. And I've been in some gnarly places as a touring comedian, and I've never even seen that. I would assume in the number of truck stops I've had to nap in as a touring comedian, especially back in the day, you'd think I would have at least spotted one, right? Would have spotted a lot lizard at some point. And I gotta say, yeah, maybe I did see him. I just didn't recognize that that's what they were doing. You know what I mean? But I suppose they have to be out there. Maybe I saw male lot lizards. You know what I mean? Like that feller's got somebody helping him drive. Who could say? I don't know. Yes. Oh, and AI Friday. So Friday AI. Now, you guys know how much I just hate being right about everything. You guys know that it's that I when I talk about this shit, when I discuss oil prices and all this kind of stuff, and how Trump's like it was going to be $200 a barrel, and thanks Georgina, I'm glad I'm on too. Thanks so much. Yeah, we'll get some Futurepedia stuff as well. Let me show you something real quick. So one of the things that I said was that the richies out there, the richie riches out there, are building algorithms, computer programs, AI specifically, to buy and sell stuff like instant day trading shit, because all these guys have a strategy they all use. They just get up and look at shit, and they go, oh, is it candling up or down? If it's a dual candle, meaning there's I'll show you the like green or red going up or down on these charts. If it's got a little pin at the top or a pin at the bottom, those dual things will lead to it's going to go down. And then if there's only a pin at the bottom right before there's a pin at the top on something else, that means it's going to go up. And they just program that. It used to be they'd have to sit there and watch the chart, and just wait for shit, and then say, oh, 3 candles in a row in the thing, and then a double candle. That means it's going to go up. And then they would just buy shit, or that means it's going to. And sometimes they'd be wrong and lose their shirt, and shit happens, and that's the nature of it. But most of the time, yeah, they and I'll show you what I mean in a second. But like oil prices, there's a couple things. Oh shit, I've remembered something else too that I want to get. See, oil in. Let's see if this is. Wait. Let's see this. This is pretty funny. Oh, this is so good. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to point out, and I'll go back to this real quick. Oh, that's right. Okay, so the price of oil right now is about $77 a barrel, but it's been up and down a bunch, and but it's never gonna crest over its worth, mostly because the trade is done by AI now. No matter what, if people want to fuck with the market, they can try, but it's not going to work because the AI is going to balance it based on how much is out there, what the demand is. Demand is lowering all the time. Part of it's because of the U.S. and the West transitioning to electric cars and moving to renewables and that kind of stuff at a fast clip. So people are buying oil futures, and just they're factoring that in. But also because China's fucking economy is collapsing, and so they're not going to need as much oil as they have. And the presumption was, oh my God, China's going to need so much oil, the rest of the world's going to have to pay for it, and they're just screwed. The rest of America's going to have to pay $200 a barrel because China's just the growth. It's going to be growth, and I've already fucking popped that balloon. Let me show you something real quick. This is from our dear friends over at Bloomberg, who are just gluttons for punishment at this point. Oil's wild ride is driven by a disruptive band of bot traders. So this isn't even about the actual availability of it, the worth of it, manipulation, any of that shit. They are just trying to maximize the investment, buying and selling by looking at a myriad of factors that no human being could have in their head at any given time. So they just create AI algorithms that will buy and sell this shit. And that's one of the reason China has loaded up with cheap Russian oil. Oh, Anthony, my dear friend, wait till I get to that one, because holy shit. All right. We'll get to this in a second. Okay, one thing at a time. This is how a lot of stocks are traded right now. And you can, if you have a Robinhood account, or you have E-Trade, or you do some of your own trading ever. And like I said, I said this to folks a while back, is that my girlfriend's kid, when he turned 18, wanted to start, doing a little bit of, online trading himself, just in a minor sense. And he's a smart kid. He was right. He's one of those kids who would say, buy Roblox, when at a good time, that kind of stuff. And you're like, what's Roblox? It's a game system online. It's a game architecture online that people can build their own games, and they can buy stuff they can buy games and they can buy stuff within the games. It's like its own little app marketplace. And so it's made a lot of money. It's very ridiculous, but it has. Roblox is a child labor scam. It's sort of. I mean, it's kids making their own stuff, and some of them are making money and some of them are wasting their time. It doesn't matter. Nobody's lashed to a computer. Happy Friday, Hal and fellow chatters. Did I miss your farewell to George Santos, or whatever his name actually is? Yes, you did, James, but we'll cover it again because it's going to come up. I'm going to see if I can find the video for it. Now, this is crucial. So many, if you're on Robinhood, you will see that that the buy and sell, if you look at the stock prices going up, they're almost exactly 5%. So very often during the day, you'll get a notification on your phone. It'll say, this has gone up 5%. This has gone down 5%, which is a very distinct number. It's an incredibly large number for something to vacillate. And the fact that it's 5 almost every time means that there's a shit ton of digital trading going on that is set to a baseline that achieves a 5% trade in one direction or another. If they have to get out, sell it 5% of it just to cover my ass if things are going the wrong way, and buy 5% if it's going in this direction, and then it starts ticking up until it stops, and then everybody sells it. And it's just day to day 5%, just like this on so many stocks. It's very weird, but it's all algorithms. It's all bots. It's all online chat GPT shit. People are making chat GPT stock advisors based on all of Warren Buffett's books, shit like that. But actual programming that's automated, and there's huge like industry and nation states that are putting together these giant bots to buy and sell shit to make this. Yeah, it's basically point shaving. Yeah, the 10% difference is consistent in a bunch of these. It just bounces back and forth. And to the businesses, it almost doesn't matter because it's so consistent that the money doesn't leave their coffers long enough to make a difference on their bottom line, right? But the people trading and buying on it make a sliver of a penny or a nickel or $5 or whatever, depending on the size of the actual stock, whatever the price is. If it's Nvidia or Google, it's a lot. If it's, some penny stock, it doesn't, it's minuscule, but it doesn't affect the company itself. It's ongoing. It's very weird. It's chaotic, but it's to some degree predictable from their end on the size of it. So this is just like they're finally coming around to this shit. There you go. This is okay. Trading oil has perhaps never been more of a roller coaster ride than it is today. Just in the past 2 months, prices threatened to reach $100 per barrel, only to whipsaw into the 70s. On one day in October, they swung as much as 6%. And so far in 2023, futures have lurched by more than $2 a day 161 times. A massive jump from previous years. What's happening can't be entirely explained by OPEC's machinations or war in the Middle East. As a matter of fact, by the way, the algorithms they have looked at, human beings would look at Gaza and Israel and go, oh, fuck, this could roll into a greater war and affect oil. Well, Lebanon and Jordan, and to some degree even Egypt, aren't major players in the oil market. And more American military ships around that area protecting Israel from Houthi missiles and that kind of stuff also mean that other tankers are going to get where they're going in better safety. So none of this is going to negatively affect the oil market. Although the knee-jerk reaction from people is that it would, because it's the Middle East and fire and hate and explosions, always bad for oil. But the computers are apparently saying, nah, not so much. And all the factoring we're putting in is not dampening shit. So it is all just floated through this, and it just keeps humping. Like the computers are like, that shouldn't matter. Whereas people emotionally would go, I think it probably could. And the computer apparently keeps going, nah. What's happening can be entirely explained. Okay, there you go. While supply and demand fundamentals still dictate overall commodity price cycles, the day-to-day business of trading crude futures is increasingly dominated by speculative forces fueling volatility and driving a disconnect between physical and paper markets. And it's not just speculators in general. Traders are pointing the finger at an opaque group of algorithmic money managers known as commodity trading advisors. Despite their mundane name, CTAs have emerged as a powerful force in the oil market. Though they comprise just 1/5 of managed money participants in U.S. oil, CTAs make up nearly 60% of the group's net trading volume this year by some measures, according to Bridgestone, blah, blah, blah. It's the biggest share group held back to 2017. While it's hard to quantify how much of total trading volumes are controlled by CTAs, algos more broadly are responsible for as much as 70% of crude trades on an average day. 70% of the back and forth is done digitally by AI, effectively. That's why it whipsaws, because it's just going on the available information. At some point, somebody's going to be able to try and they may have been trying to do this already. It's a possibility that knowing how the algorithms are created and knowing that they are part, like Aramco, the Saudi organization, knowing how they are, how the algorithms that they make themselves are driven, you could fuck with the algorithms if you knew what the input it was looking for was. So if it's looking for the kind of news where like the Saudis or Russians or Iran cuts production by a certain amount, right? That has to, if it's less than 200,000 barrels, wouldn't affect anything. If it's over 500,000 or it's cumulatively over 500,000 amongst 3 countries, then it would drive the price up, which is what happened with the $100 a barrel thing. But it didn't last because the barrels didn't sell. In the old days, it would sell because people, by the time they got the fucking news that the oil was overpriced, they would be panic buying it. But the algorithms go, where the fuck are these barrels going? Nobody wants it at 100. And so they collapsed back down to 77 because the demand isn't there. And in the old days, you didn't know the demand wasn't there until somebody fucking showed up, or later Telegram and phones, you get a phone call and go, we don't need all this shit. We got a bunch of barrels sitting here. There you go. 70% of crude trades on an average day. That's a lot. Do we have a troll bot? Awesome. I swear it's a conspiracy. Every time I head to YouTube to watch how life situations they pull me away. I'm here. Hi, we see you. Yeah, that's a lot. Wow, 70% is right. Now, let me. You want to see something else that's fun? Now we're talking about Russia. So one of the big things was that remember at the beginning of the war when Russia was going to make everyone trade in rubles. You guys remember that? Chat room, you guys remember? I can wait. The internet really messed with things. It also created a bunch of shit too. And quite frankly, some of it needs to be messed with. This is actually an improvement because it's harder to manipulate the market based on news stories with an algorithm than it is with a human being. Human beings make broader, stupid decisions in those things. So, right. You guys remember that, right? The whole story. You're going to have to buy oil from us in rubles. And it's the end of the petrodollar. Remember all that shit we went through with Jimmy Dore and fucking Kyle Kalinske and all those motherfuckers? Just story after story of the petrodollar. Breaking points. The petrodollar is done. The America's petrodollar. Notice when, by the way, the Venezuelan dude gets elected and he's going to dollarize his entire fucking economy. And Turkey is effectively already an under-the-table dollarized economy. Anyways, they've all shut the fuck up about that. But we'll get there in a second. But Russia was like, you've got to buy, you must buy our oil in rubles. That's how it's going to go. Okay. Well, it turns out that their two biggest trade partners in buying it basically said, fuck you. And China specifically and India both are paying in their currency. So China's been using yuan and Russia can't say no. And India is one of the bigger buyers, is using rupees and Russia can't say no. The problem is nobody else in the world wants yuan or rupees. Nobody. Nobody is like, holy shit, get me some yuan so I can do some trading. Especially right now as businesses are getting the rat's ass out of China. India's a little different. Maybe you might be able to find a market for it in the currency markets and pull a fucking George Soros and sit on it for a while. But, well, let me show you, if I may, because goddamn it, what I fucking say. All these de-dollarization motherfuckers aren't uttering a peep right now. Russia's oil trade with Asia affected by currency issues. Oh, is it now? Russia's trade in oil with India, one of the most lucrative oil trade routes since the imposition of Western sanctions over Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, is being affected by issues involving payment in a currency other than the US dollar. Efforts to find alternatives have been thwarted by conversion difficulties and political obstacles. You don't say. In July, India, which has become Russia's biggest buyer of seaborne oil since European customers retreated due to sanctions, insisted on paying in rupees. Russian oil suppliers could not do deals in Indian rupees after being advised by Russian central bank that it would be not accepting the currency because Russia has limited opportunity to spend rupees as its imports from India are insignificant. There's not a big market for yoga classes and Hindu religious artifacts and curry. I guess I'm just broad. Tea would be a big one to the British. What were thoughts about the debate last night? I Newsom dunked all over DeSantis, and he should have never shown up for it. If you're a serious contender for the presidency, why are you debating someone who isn't actually? He should have done RFK Jr. and they could have both embarrassed each other and been stupid, and it would have been even less of a waste of time. I like Newsom, so it was fun to see him do it. But it was a great class in how to push back on all these talking points from assholes like Sean Hannity. I was more impressed with how he dealt with Sean Hannity than how he dealt with DeSantis, because DeSantis is a fucking pipsqueak. Mentally and politically, he's a pipsqueak. So anyways, this is India, okay? Two biggest trading partners with Russia right now, India and China. Okay. India was insisting on paying in in rupees. All right. Around mid-August, at least two major Russian oil companies threatened to divert a dozen tankers carrying up to 1 million tons of oil headed to India and to other destinations. As a temporary solution, the cargoes were paid for in a combination of the Chinese yuan, the Hong Kong dollar, as a transition currency into the yuan, and the UAE dirham, which is pegged to the US dollar, which again, this is a good point right here that I think is people need to understand. You cannot fuck with the United States, and you are never going to fuck with the United States if your currency is pegged to our currency. You cannot crash our economy or destroy our country because our dollar will go with it. The reason, and you can't jump, now we're going to peg it to something else really quickly. The UAE is, like a fucking attached to us at the hip because of this. So, okay, the issue of finding a viable alternative to the dollar affects the top buyers of Russian oil, which are various African countries, China and Turkey. Now, Turkey it's all under the table because Turkey's entire economy is run on U.S. dollars right now, but their own currency ain't worth shit. So, and then African countries like, they'll pay. This is basically a way to launder U.S. dollars. Like $8 that gets transferred into their local currency and then back out again, and then they wash them a little bit, and then they pay Russia in US dollars so Russia can use US dollars elsewhere under the table. But anyways, so this is, by the way, after according to LSEG and Reuters data, India is still the leading buyer after China, purchasing more than 60% of Russian seaborne oil. That's because China buys the stuff from the pipeline as well, okay, which nobody can tell exactly how much is in the pipeline at any given time. It could be flowing like crazy, or it could be fucking empty, which is probably more the case. Now, here's the other story on this. Reject all. There we go. Go back to here. Currency clashes sour Russia's oil trade with Asia. Same shit. One of Russia's most lucrative oil trade routes since the imposition of sanctions, payment in currency other than dollars with no short-term solution in sight. For decades, U.S. dollars have been the currency of international oil trade and efforts, blah, blah, blah. The problems flared when India, which has become their biggest target, started paying in rupees. The sources then who requested anonymity said the Russian oil suppliers, who also could not be named because of the issue's sensitivity, could not do deals in Indian rupees because of the informal guidance from the Russian central bank. It would not accept the currency. It all fell apart, whatever. The same thing. Now, China's doing the exact same thing. Let's see if I don't know if there is if I had the area. Yeah, Russia's oil deal with India should tariff countries trying to abandon the dollar. This is fucking great. May I? Look at this. Russia's, you motherfuckers. How right do I need to be? Russia's oil deals with India should terrify countries trying to abandon the dollar. How I've been predicting hyperinflation in Russia despite zero demand for Russian goods. You have any thoughts? Yeah, that's they are manipulating the market to fake the numbers. We don't know what the actual cost of goods are, and so they're backfilling shit. And they have enough money in reserve in other. That's why the oligarchs are dying, because basically they're scooping up their bank accounts and backfilling goods. They're to cheapen goods or whatever, buying them with the net worth of these dead oligarchs. When that runs out, then the whole thing, the needle, like it's like they're holding the inflation needle physically, and when their strength gives out, they're fucked. So yes, this is. Can I just real quick, if I may, fuck you, Jimmy Dore, and fuck you, Kalinsky, and fuck you, any of the like hyper lefties, and fuck you, Glenn Beck, and fuck you, Sean Hannity, and all these dickheads who've been talking about this. I just had to get that off my chest. All these assholes who ran that fucking de-dollarization fucking nonsense all last year, and I'm saying fucking a lot because it aggravates me. And what I say, what I say, the whole time. That I flinch, that I hedge, that I go, I don't know, maybe, well, there's a chance, there's possible. No, because there wasn't. It was always nonsense. They were always talking out of their ass. They didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. All they knew was they found a new dumb way to shit on America right about the time Joe Biden is trying to make the place actually better. and kind of drag us back to Trump world, with this mythology that Biden doesn't know anything about economics, and America's fucked finally because Biden's in office. It's the same shit the right wingers say that the hyper left wingers are saying, and they're all wrong. They're wrong. It's not even close. It's not even a reasonable, it's not even reasonably close. It never was. It was always idiotic. And the backwater of the internet that they had to go to find articles, from Russell Brand doing the same shit, fucking, that they would look at this article from new muddy libertytimes.com. Get the fuck out of here. And I'm very proud of the facts that I haven't wasted your time. That in telling you the truth and telling you what I know and using the intellectual capacity that I have for good instead of evil, I said this. That, yes, epic times, exactly. Now, heavily sanctioned Russia is facing challenges from its de-dollarization drive. You think? Challenges. It now trades less than 10% of its oil using the greenback and the euro, but trading alternative currencies like the Indian rupee and the Chinese yuan has its own issues. You don't say. Now, there is I'm going to see if okay, I got to look up the exchange rate on something real quick. And I know this shit is, guys, I know some of this maybe it used to be boring. Maybe you're finding it interesting. I find it fascinating right now. Yuan to ruble rate. There you go. There you go. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So since this is December, I'll just do this. Yeah, this is over the year. Okay. So right now, over the last little bit, in pure dollars, Russians were beating the sanction, or getting around the sanction by selling oil to China at $80, what would effectively be $80 US a barrel. Okay. And as they shut down their refineries, and as they shut down a lot of their oil fields, because they sent the people who work there to get killed around Bucha Bakhmut and places like that. There's nobody running these fucking things. So the oil market itself, they managed to keep the cost of the barrel high for themselves, but they can't trade it in dollars. They got to trade it in yuan. And so it matters what the yuan trades against the ruble for. If the ruble is worth less, then even if you're, if you were trading, if the price of the barrel between two countries never changed, it went down. And I'll show you what I mean. This is, I'm going to go to here. This is the yuan to the ruble. In December of 2022, you could get 1 yuan for 8 rubles for 1 yuan. Okay? 1 yuan. Now it's 12 in less than a year. And it's been worse a couple of times. It's been, here's 13.56, almost hitting 14, and it's gonna hit 14 at some point. Look at this shit. Which means whatever money they were taking in, they're taking in 30% less. So even if they're selling the barrel for the exact same amount, they're taking in 30% less money than they were in December of last year. And they're shipping less. It is unbelievable to me that, and by the way, a US dollar to the euro, if I may, real quick, we are ahead of the euro. Just saying, it's not always the case, but it is right now. And again, to all these fuckers We're like, there's too many dollars and the money printer go burr. There's too many dollars in circulation. There's too many dollars and the dollars in circulation. There's too many dollars in circulation. Then why is it worth more than $1 in euros? You can get more euros for your dollar than you can get dollars for your euro, dum-dum. Biden is doing what so many countries have just babbled about. Exactly. Yeah. So it is amazing to me. So here's back to the Chinese yuan. There you go. One Chinese yuan will get you 12.7738 Russian rubles. And also, like, it steadies, until the market comes in, and then it goes up. But there's a lot of this fluctuation over the course of the day. But it's still, never went below 12.48 today. Here's 5 days. Here's a month. Here's 3 months. Here's year to date. Yeah. That's the yuan growing against the ruble. Same thing with the rupee. So what does this mean? What does this mean? I'll tell you what this means. This means that the Chinese yuan and the Indian rupee, for all practical purposes in terms of how Russia is dealing with them, is not a currency. It is not money. It is a fucking yogurt reward card. It's Starbucks points. It's a GameStop fucking gift card. Because you can only spend it here. That's the point. It's fucking useless everywhere. And by the way, do you think US companies are scooping up yuan right now? And they don't have to scoop up rupees because there's plenty in circulation. You don't have to dip into how many are in Russia's coffers to get enough rupees on the open market, because the fucking country's, it's the availability of rupees is through the fucking roof. It'd be one thing if, like, in this trade there was so much fucking trade that it was hard to come by rupees anymore. It ain't. I gotta say, I just enjoy being this right about this kind of shit. You wanna know? Yeah. So, I Can I just, I needed to take like a fucking victory lap. And by the way, if anybody who's just joining us late, this fucker's gone. Santos is out. And Henry Kissinger is dead. So, 2 expulsions in one day that I think in 24 hours. How am I tired of being right? Nope. Yes, Russia is going broke. That's another thing. That's on top of all this shit. Their currency internally ain't worth shit. They can just mask what comes out and the story that's going on, but you can tell what is working and what isn't working by how mad their TV hosts are getting. Did Santos make a speech? No. After the vote, he just bugged the fuck out. He just left. He went and got in a car and drove away. Because what the fuck's the point? What are you going to do? And yeah, and Kissinger, just a terrible, terrible person. Just, yeah. But here's Sandra. Here's a decent lady. And her, in many ways, her tenure on there, really did define, the codification of women's rights for a time before Gen Z and the millennials and all the folks that are supposedly all like, into, diversity and inclusion and all that shit, just decided to shrug off the presidency of Donald Trump and go, yeah, maybe America, maybe women deserve it. Because Gen Z, that's what the young voters, the people who are like, I'm too mad to vote because I don't like, or the people who are floating like Genocide Joe on Twitter, on shitter just to be a dick. Yeah, they're shrugging all this shit off. Just assholes. Just gross. Yeah. And by the way, they're children and they'll come around. Hopefully they don't come around too late where they hand over another segment of the government like they did with the Supreme Court to the Trumps of the world. Right? Hopefully they'll come to their fucking senses and go, "Oh, this is a marathon, not a sprint." And I've got to think about the long-term impact on human lives instead of just going, "I don't know, I don't like it anymore. I don't like it. It's not good anymore. It's not. I don't like it. It's just wrong." I heard a thing, and I watched like 6 TikToks, and I just think he's bad. I think he's a bad person, and so I'm gonna go with the person who's outwardly horrifying because I heard something that totally contradicts the actual policies and machinations of the actual administration. But I saw it on TikTok, so fuck it. The fuck out of here. I like, oi. It's just, yeah. Oh, and Andrea, welcome back from the dentist. I hope you're well. And I'm sorry you can't speak to us right now verbally. So, but I hope you're all right. I heard a thing. Yeah, I heard a thing. Canceled. They're canceled. Canceling. I'm canceling Sandra Day O'Connor because she's an old white lady that looks like an old white lady. She looks like a Karen to me. Like when she was younger, she would have looked like a Karen. So that's enough. I don't like her. That's the depth of the ethic of that crowd. The worst thing about that crowd is the clamoring about that they're the only people in the world that give a shit while not actually giving a shit. They don't. They don't care. It's absurd. You fucking sip a hot coffee while telling, it's the same thing. It's like, while Trump's like, the world is hell or whatever. And these seats at this football game are terrible. Shut the fuck up. Like in the world being where it is, you're going to just kind of tap dance around like the privilege that you have and not make the world better for the people who are around you that need the most help just because I don't like it. I don't like it. That's why, by the way, there is no youth vote. Every time we chase it like crazy, but it's always rotating. And by the time somebody votes the third time, they don't vote the way they did the first time, unless they were smart enough to vote Democrat. Yeah. So the next story, and this is a good example of that. So this is from the New York Times. Israel's next aim is southern Gaza. U.S. urges restraint. Now, I have to say, Israel resumes strikes on Gaza after truce expires. Israel and Hamas blamed each other for the collapse of a week-long ceasefire that had allowed for the exchange of hostages and detainees. Hamas can't find the hostages they were going to trade. They wanted to do 10 per day, and they don't know where they are. They're already dead already, or they never even made it. They were killed before they got to they're only considered hostages as far as the outside world because we lost track of them the minute they crossed the border into the Gaza area. They're, a good portion of them are dead. They found a bunch of them dead already and like shot, decapitated, torn to pieces. Like it's horrible. So anyways, Hamas is like, you made us. Like, okay, you don't have anybody to trade anymore. So you got finished setting up your IEDs and now it's back on. And this is how it's going to be. Meanwhile, quote, U.S. urges restraint. I'm curious where this American officials are making clear to Israel that it cannot pursue a campaign in the South that would have the same devastating consequences that it's in the North. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that that's what Israel is planning. Because we're nervous about it, and rightly so, and we express to them probably not a good idea, does not mean that's their idea. You know what I mean? It's like warning your teenager before they leave the house. Like, don't drive drunk. You're like, I'm not going to. Yes, just because I have a concern about it doesn't mean you're going to drink or drive or any of that shit. It's just my concern. It doesn't automatically put that thought in your head that you're going to do that. So anyways, Israel resumes strikes on Gaza after truce expires. Israel and Hamas blamed each other, blah, blah, blah. Israeli officials obtained Hamas's battle plan for the October 7th attack over a year ago, but dismissed it as aspirational. This is the story that people are talking about this morning. A blueprint reviewed by the Times laid out the attack in detail. Israeli officials dismissed it as aspirational and ignored specific warnings. Now, again, over the last year, what has Netanyahu been doing? Has he been actively not, has he been reading My Pet Goat and avoiding his president's daily briefing? Sort of. He, in his fight to beat his corruption charges and keep himself in power and fuck with the judiciary, it's been an international incident. You know, we talked about before October 7th happened. The vast majority of the conversation about Israel was how fucked up Netanyahu's attacks on the judiciary was. That was the entire conversation about Israel up to that point. And rightly so. That's what he was busy doing. They thought, okay, this is true, that Hamas might be dicking around with this, but they signed this ceasefire thing and things are humming, whatever. I've got bigger fish to fry. I need to keep myself out of jail and keep myself in power. That seems to be where his head and his effort was. Israeli officials obtained Hamas's battle plan for October 7th attack more than a year before it happened, documents, emails, and interviews show. But Israeli military intelligence officials dismissed the plan as aspirational, considering it too difficult for Hamas to carry out. The approximately 40-page document, which the Israeli authorities codenamed Jericho Wall, outlined point by point exactly the kind of devastating invasion that led to the deaths of about 1,200 people. The translated document, which was reviewed by the Times, did not set a date for the attack, but described a methodical assault designed to overwhelm fortifications around the Gaza Strip, take over Israeli cities, and storm key military bases, including a division headquarters. Now, this is the important part. This is the part I want to point out to a bunch of other people. Okay. While it contained details that were used on October 7th, it also contained like pie in the sky, a absolute domination horseshit mixed in. Now, that could have been a strategy to pass around a plan that intentionally, effectively psyoped the Israelis into thinking, this is never going to fucking happen. Listen, they think they're going to march in and take over our entire fucking base. They can't possibly do that. Look at it. It says they're going to fly in and send in soldiers and do this and circle the bases. That's not possible. And it isn't. And it wasn't. What was possible was the minor aspects of it in this thing. Okay. Hamas followed the blueprint with shocking precision. The document called for a barrage of rockets at the outset of the attack, drones to knock out the security cameras and automated machine guns along the border, and gunmen to pour into Israel en masse in paragliders, on motorcycles, and on foot, all of which happened on October 7th. The plan also included details about the location and size of Israeli military forces, communications hubs, and other sensitive information, raising questions about how Hamas gathered its intelligence and whether there were leaks inside the Israeli security establishment. Now, this has more to do, quite frankly, with obvious available information and the kind of stuff you can read in newspapers. A lot of the sensitive information, if you just keep looking and you look long enough over the course of years, enough details will pop up. It's why you're supposed to arrest the Trumps of the world when they have the shitter full of classified documents. Also, you can track some of the information that got out to Russia that resulted in the death of his two Israeli agents from when Trump met with them in the Oval Office. Remember that shit? You can track this to that. The document circulated widely among Israeli military and intelligence leaders, but the experts determined that an attack of that scale and ambition was beyond Hamas's capabilities, according to documents and officials. It is unclear whether Netanyahu or other top political leaders saw the document as well, and that was the question. Apparently, they didn't. Last year, shortly after the document was obtained, officials in the Israeli Gaza division, which is responsible for defending the border, said that Hamas's intentions were unclear. It is not yet possible to determine whether the plan has been fully accepted or how it will be manifested. Then in July, just 3 months before the attacks, a veteran analyst at Unit 8200, their signals intelligence agency, warned that Hamas had conducted an intense day-long training exercise that appeared similar to what was outlined in the blueprint. But a colonel in the Gaza division brushed off her concerns. I think we see what the problem is. Gentlemen, perhaps, listen to the ladies. You can justify almost anything now, huh, Hal? No, I just don't see anything from this article that that points to the full contents of the article, or the paperwork. But a colonel in the Gaza division brushed off her concerns. I utterly refute that the scenario is imaginary. The analyst wrote in the email exchanges, the Hamas training exercise, she said, fully matched the content of Jericho Wall. It is a plan designed to start a war. It is not just a raid on a village. That was the back and forth. And by the way, it was a plan to start a war, but it was also a raid on a village. It's just that's all it took to start the raid on the village. Yeah. Officials privately concede that had the military taken these warnings seriously and redirected significant reinforcements to the south, where Hamas attacked, Israel could have blunted the attacks or possibly even prevented them. No shit. Instead, the Israeli military was unprepared as terrorists streamed out of the Gaza Strip. It was the deadliest day in Israel's history. They've already acknowledged they failed to protect the country, and the government is expected to assemble a commission to study the effects, blah, blah, blah. The Jericho Wall document lays bare a years-long cascade of missteps that culminated in what officials now regard as the worst Israeli intelligence failure since the surprise attack that led to the Arab-Israeli War of 1973. Underpinning all these failures was a single fatally inaccurate belief that Hamas lacked the capability to attack and would not dare to do so. That belief was so ingrained in the Israeli government, officials said, that they disregarded growing evidence to the contrary. And this would be this part. Behind Hamas's bloody gambit to create a permanent state of war. Let's see, thousands have been killed in the... Okay, this is New York Times, so they're referencing their own reporting on this as well. So, it's always hard to, get the full picture when you only reference back on your stuff instead of the documents themselves, which would be good. The Jericho Wall document, named for the ancient fortifications of the modern-day West Bank, was even more explicit. It detailed rocket attacks to distract Israeli soldiers and send them hurrying into bunkers, and drones to disable the elaborate security measures outside the border fence, alongside the border fence in separating Israel and Gaza. Hamas fighters would then break through 60 points in the wall, storming across the border into Israel. The document, and by the way, they didn't. This is also what I'm talking about. That's why you can say that they blew it off. They broke through 3 or 4 places in the wall, not 60. And that's how they it seems like that's how they tricked the Israeli military into thinking it was too grand a plan and it would only work if it was all of this at once, and that was never really the thing. Right? That's my point. Is that hidden in this plan, it seems like let's say you're circulating a plan for an attack like this, and you know it might end up in the hands of the enemy. So what you do is you know that they have a belief system about your capability, and that they believe you overstate it and they understate it all the time. That's their habit. You play into that in how you create it, and everybody who deals with the plan knows that 60 actually means 6 in this case. Let's say they broke through 6 points in the wall instead of 60. And when the Israelis looked at it, they were like, 60? You can't pull off fucking 60. That's ridiculous. When are we going to see the apartheid? Yeah, we aren't. Could have been thwarted? Absolutely. But that's the thing, is that it seemed so grandiose that they're like, they can't break through fucking 60 points in the wall. It's just not possible. And it wasn't. They were right. But that wasn't the point. The point was to hide what they were really going to do in a smoke screen of elaborate fantasy. A 40-page document for a 10-page plan. Does that make sense? Just, I mean, honestly, no. This is sort of the equivalent, like an inversion of it. But when the Allies parked, they wanted the Germans to believe that the attack was coming from the north, so they filled these fields with inflatable tanks and fake. Just put tents everywhere and assigned soldiers just kind of wander around so that the Luftwaffe flying over will go, holy shit, they're amassing a bunch of tanks at the northern border, and distract them in that direction. They think, oh my God, this is a huge attack coming from this way, when it was actually coming from the other direction. That kind of thing. This is part of strategy. This is modern battle strategy in this sense. And if you know the Israelis are distracted by this judicial horseshit, and Netanyahu's a fuckwad, and they don't believe that you're capable of an outlandish plan, then you couch your real plan in this giant, myth, right? Yeah, it's the Trojan horse. Exactly. It's a great way to put it. Yeah. Can you see how this is wrong? Which part is wrong? It's not bullcrap if you listen to actual news. Yeah. They even had a corpse wash up on fascist Spain shores. Right. That's right, Phil. They absolutely. They put, and they had the plans for the attack because they had a dead body. They put the plans for the attack in his clothes. Right. That's right. There he goes with battle plans. That's right. And hi, we got Phil and we got Boston Brian and Texas Paul. Thanks for dropping by, guys. Yes, the man in the gray flannel suit. That's right. This is not new. And the biggest failure in intelligence, I would argue, that the Israelis had was not in air quotes intelligence in terms of their intelligence forces, but in their own fucking intelligence mentally, and disregarding this apparently a woman who was inside the intelligence community that was like, hello, these fuckers are doing this. And a bunch of others, they can't do anything like this. This is bullshit. And yet they did. And again, I'll need to look at the actual, I don't know if they have a translated version of the document. I'm going to have to look at it today and I'll read through it. But they don't seem to have a link to it in the Jericho Wall document. Yeah. And again, it didn't set a date and there's an ebb and flow. And again, with all this, they planned this a couple of years ago. How long ago was it? How many years did they say? More than a year before it happened. Okay. So basically they looked at all this bullshit that Netanyahu was doing and went, we're getting close. We're getting close because he's distracted and the world's looking at Israel and they're totally ignoring us. Yep. So it's a huge part of it. And by the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc., etc. Now, Wikipedia, and 1 second, I got to start a whole new page of new stuff because I have so many goddamn tabs open at this point. Let me go to this one thing. Let's open this guy. I want to show you this. Fucking ridiculous. Now, here's the thing. Americans are pretty fucking savvy at this point. As a matter of fact, I would argue that we are cynics. Maybe to a fault. I would argue that sometimes I said that. I saw that. Phil is in the chat. That's right. Sometimes we are too cynical for our own good. But there are other areas where our skepticism will help us. And one of the big areas around that is going to be fake video. Is going to be the AI fake, videos that are faked. Everybody's going to go, I'm going to check that out. Like there'll be a knee-jerk reaction for a very long time watching for some of the shit. I think the scariest AI fake videos will come years from now, not recently, because we're all kind of on the lookout for it. It'll be when we drop our guard, essentially, in the future, or we think, oh, we've got apps now that can point out that something's AI, and people go, yeah, but you can't do that if somebody just takes it and then with their phone films it on a monitor and then reloads it. And then it's just a piece of video from their phone, and it's hard to tell. And they just move it around, so it's shitty, so it's hard for the algorithm to tell whether it's fake or not. That's going to be the concerning part. Now, one of the reasons is one of the things that I have said, and I just again, am I just gonna keep being right about all of this shit? Is that how it's gonna be? Is it just how stuff? Okay. Here you go. This guy, where are we? Back up. Okay. So Futurepedia, I'll go to this real quick. This is just one, I'll give you a quick example of this. There you go. Futurepedia is one of these sites, like I said, that when I started visiting it earlier this year in January, it had 4 pieces of software on it. And now it's got hundreds and hundreds. And now AI is making software. So you can no-code some software yourself, right? And this is just another example. There's myriad numbers of these. But this is called Verbo. And it is I'll show you. We'll go to the website itself. Generate engaging AI in minutes. Free Windows download, just generate that AI video online. Seamless cross-platform, makes it in every format. It has a little fake person that reads the news. Look at all the people it has. You got Jordan, you got Chase, he's the lecturer. You got Harry the teacher, who has a beard and is hairy. Mila, who's wearing a garment. She's a fashion person. Iho is Lucas, who's in a white shirt. Callista, she's a manager. Where's Ella dress, Harry teacher. Where's this guy? William, the designer, who's just too laid back for his own good. Ben in shirt. All these these are all AI human beings. These are fake people. 300 avatars, 300 voices. Just doing bullshit news. Here's a great way to do video editing to learn a few things. 5 tips and blah, blah, blah. And so they're going to just flood YouTube and other sites with this kind of shit. And so you watch for YouTube to set tighter and tighter controls on uploading fake people videos onto YouTube and other sites, which means that the good sites will limit it. YouTube will take steps to either watermark it if it's a YouTube character, if it's an AI character, which they should do. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with watching one of these things if it works for you, because it can translate into multiple different languages. The new ones can move the mouth to fit whatever the language is. But whatever, it's fine. The point is, though, is that you should be able to know what it is. In other countries, they're not going to bother. And Europe's going to have the hardest time with it, because there's crossing state lines from different European countries. The EU, when they finally get around to it, it'll be sort of too late for a while. But this is just one of the available ones, and there are dozens of these fucking things, and you can see them. I have to say, like, there's a lot of AI on YouTube already, and it's shit, and a lot of people who do what I do, or do video shorter versions of shit that I do, are using a lot of AI generated just, I don't know, stock footage and shit like that, or images just to sell an idea. And I guess that's fine. I don't know that it adds anything right now, because you can tell it's stock footage, and I guess it's just for people who are bored, or just, I don't know, don't want to see the host talk or something. It's very strange to me. I feel like there's a little bit of a personal exchange that happens, and they try to get away from that. Maybe people just don't have enough personality to keep people engaged, so they throw that stuff up. Whatever. But there's a lot of this shit already. On top of that, if I may, where is it? Okay. I've said a bunch of the biggest stories that came out with AI in the beginning was, is AI going to take my job? And we'll end on this Friday, and we'll have a great show this afternoon. So much to talk about, and I can't wait to cover the actual vote and escape of George Santos and the reaction around Trump land to this kind of thing. Yeah. Yes, AI duplicating voices and making, people creating their own versions of themselves digitally is going to be very weird. That's happening very soon. So the big story was, is it going to take your job away? Am I going to lose my job to AI? Now, there are certain areas where if you do shit work and it's the stepping stone to growing, like in a law firm, being a paralegal, for example, with the idea of eventually studying and passing the bar and becoming a lawyer yourself or whatever, there's a very strong chance that some, if not all, of your job is going to be AI. And I would argue that most of the time, especially when it's like law clerks or people who deal with a lot of information, accountants, other stuff like that, you're going to have, I've said this line, that Microsoft calling it Copilot is brilliant. And that's what it's going to be. The vast majority. I do shit work as a plumber. Yeah, it's true. That here's Time Magazine. AI should complement humans at work, not replace them, Time panelists say. Really? Really? They got to be a Time panelist, did they? They got to come out to San Francisco and they got to be a panelist and talk about this shit and just say what I've said is going to happen? this entire fucking time, little old me. Now, granted, I am closer to the topic than they are because I'm named after a computer, but artificial intelligence is widely expected to transform our lives. Leaders from across the sector gathered for a time dinner conversation on November 30th, where they emphasized, because really, do you want to see tech people eating? It's frightening. Um, or one of them eating like Soylent. They just drinking Soylent and popping Adderall. I do this instead of eating. Oh. Alice ISO 9001 is much safer than HAL 9000. It's true. They let's see, where they emphasize the need to center humans in decisions around incorporating the technology into workflows and advocating for governments and industry leaders to take a responsible approach to managing the risks the technology poses. As part of the Time 100 Talk series in San Francisco, senior correspondent Alice Park spoke with panelist Cynthia Braziel, a pioneer in social robotics and the dean for digital learning at MIT. James Landay, a computer science professor and vice director? I didn't realize they had that much vice there. Institute for Human-Centered AI at Stanford. And Raquel Erdison, CEO and founder of self-driving tech startup Waabi, which recently put a fleet of trucks into service on Uber Freight's trucking network. The panelists discussed the ethical considerations of AI and the way in which leaders can ensure its benefits reach every corner of the world. Now, let's take case in point. Let's take our dear friend Boston Brian as a plumber who has to deal with a bunch of stuff. The ability to use like a snake camera, for example, and look at it yourself and make an assessment is valuable. But imagine a situation where that snake camera also has sensors on the outside of it that can read the pH of the water, the content of it, and other stuff like that, and tell you, like, hey, wash me when I come out. But also can run tests on it, go, what you have is a corrosion problem, and that this is breaking down the area of this, and so you're going to have to replace this piece because it's corroded beyond a certain measure, because we know there's a certain amount of, breakaway from the pipe itself. That kind of stuff. That's a turd poker. That's right. Right. That having those kind of tools available isn't going to, change the aspect that you need human hands for the foreseeable future to fix a lot of this shit. Especially if it's not, kind of plug and play Minecraft like housing, which is next, by the way. Once we get to the Minecraft style housing where, you're either pre-assembled, prefabbed, or 3D printing houses on the regular and robots can handle that, then, then you're going to have to find a new investment beside your house that represents the biggest investment. It'll probably be land, by the way. I'm just going to tell you. It won't be what's on it, because you'll be able to switch that out really easily compared to how you used to be able to build something. It'll be about land. Land will become way more valuable, and that's what will be the real estate aspect of it. Location again, right? Okay, so, which will, by the way, cadaver most of the real estate in places like Vegas or Phoenix and places like that, where it's just the land's kind of shit as far as its resources and stuff, and drive the price of San Francisco and other places through the roof even further, because it's the footprint. What you can build on top of it is enormous. So there you go. You like primitive tech? I'm a fan. I do too. I got a plenty of primitive shit around me. And there's just some stuff you need to do by hand. It's a human thing. But it's very important. Technology chaos theory is going to dictate how much of your job is kind of. It's not even weird. And here's the thing: for all the fucking panic about it, isn't that what your phone is already doing? Isn't your phone just basically like a carry around encyclopedia / brain fart machine? Right? Isn't that essentially like, what the fuck is the name of that? Oh yeah, it's that. Like, that's what you use it for. It's a communication device, and you can look up shit that you can't remember off the top. And increasingly, like the iPhone with its LiDAR in it, you can measure things, right? And from those measurements and from that ability to look up stuff and its coordination with what you do on the regular, that device has effectively become your fucking sidecar already. Your phone, look at everybody. Look at everybody and how they act with their fucking phones. It is your AI co-pilot. It's just going to get smoother because you're going to talk to it. and you're going to name it something. There's going to be, variant names. People are going to have to come up with their own names so that they can talk in public to their thing without triggering everybody else's. Because if they're all named the S lady or Alexi person, or like if you're on Xbox, I guess Cortana or some shit like that. If you're, if they're all named that, and you ask, and you don't have like voice recognition, like I set up on mine that mine really only listens to our voices in the house. Okay, Google is getting far too old. Yeah, well, that's exactly it, right? You're gonna have to. Cherry is my AI. That's fine. That's what I'm saying. Like, name it. You'll give it a name, and that it responds to, and you can give it its pronunciation, and that and shit. You'll be at a point where you can name your AI co-pilot, like clicks and whistles or something like that, and it knows that noise is for it. It's not even a word. It knows that sound from you. Or if you're Rudy Giuliani, you just right. You know what I mean? And it's like, what do you need, boss? Get me out of here. Book me a flight to territory in Dagestan that's still held by. Oh, by the way, I didn't understand what you said, boss. I'm trying to say it again. Can you give AI COVID? I guess that's the question. So, yeah. So, a lot of this stuff, I mean, it's adorable. And I think what I'm going to do going forward, what I would like to do, and I'll arrange for this as best I can, but I think I'm going to bring on an AI guest every so often on the Friday show, if that's all right with you guys, and we can have a conversation about this shit. And because, again, the Biden administration, they have a tech officer, but they're gonna need a AI czar. You're on something? I think so. I think so too. Does AI know the correct amount of heat to put on a copper pipe? It should. It should. I mean, if it's a measurable thing, it would know. Yeah. The question is, what input would it need? Right? That's the question. I mean, it's a fascinating thing, and it's coming. It doesn't matter because it. Okay, let me show you real quick. Since it's Boston, Brian. Oops. Okay. No, let's see. Let's see the news on this. There we go. Yeah, here it is. This is where is it? Yeah. I showed a little bit of this before. Where's the video on this? There's a picture of it. So the Boston Dynamics dogs, if you have, they become tour guides. I showed you guys they use Chat GPT to get them to be able to talk to and answer questions from people as tour guides at Boston Dynamics. And they're also doing security. Like there's another one. This is fucking scary shit. Hold on, check this out. Let me bring this in. There you go. A tech giant is pitching a robot dog for campus security. It's a hard sell. This thing, but look at this thing going through water, like climbing up a fucking hill. Jesus Christ. By the way, we all owe Michael Crichton as a director an apology because this looks so much like the spiders that Gene Simmons releases in Runaway. Look at these fucking things. And it's walking through water. Oh, no sound? What happened? Check, check, check. Check, check, check. That's weird. Major audio glitch? That's so weird. Refresh? Okay. They always attack me. Hold on. I'm going to go back to here and back to here. See if does that help in at all? This is just weird. Who designs the tech police? Well, that's the thing. You do. Because while this thing will have a limited amount of experience, you'll be able to, like, you can unplug this thing, keep it uncharged, and then run an infinite number of simulations digitally on on a mock-up of the campus with human beings and like fake like AI bots representing people, walking around them, seeing if they would bump into anybody or harm them or misread something, and you could just go and go and go and go and go, and it will work out. It'll work it out over time. This thing can run 7 miles an hour. It can swim. It can climb steps. It can scale hills that are a 40-degree gradient, and it can be outfitted with sensors, night vision, arms, and wait for it, deployable drones. So wait, hold on. Let me see if I can pause this. Wait, hold on. Pause this guy right here. See this? See that right there? Hold on. On that, like, it won't let me stop this video because it's on a loop. Watch when it's walking across the grass. See its back is. See, look at that right there. Those are drones. There are 2 drones on its back. Watch, it'll do it again. See the drones right there? Those are 2 fucking drones on its back that it can out to look around and then come back and land and attach and either, I guess, up or download depending on how you look at it. Yes, and arms. It says fucking arms, as in guns. Yeah. And by the way, I've told you guys this before, but there was a guy who used to work at my dad's architectural firm who designed a walking robot gun that would, could propel itself. It had like these like pelican legs, these fucking bendable where its elbows could invert and it could walk like that. And what it would do is to fire, it would turn its feet out and sit like this so that it wouldn't fall over when it fired. And yeah. No sound? Why does it go to no sound? Well, that's very strange. I see sound coming out of there. Hold on. Glitchy on your end? They're just attacking me at this point. Trying again. Da-da-da-da. Is it better for thing? No arms for hugging. Fail. I agree. It's not really a dog in that regard. Agreed. Hold on one second. Just make Twitch audio's fine. YouTube's fine. Okay, good. No clip on audio. Well, I wasn't playing audio. There was no sound on the audio. No sound on the audio. Listen to me. No sound on the video. Yeah, it wasn't I specifically. Now let's see let's check in with the panic attack that's going on in AI news across. Let's see where everybody's going. Here's Michigan to join state level efforts to regulate AI political ads as federal legislation is pending, because you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to do something to push back against the fake ads where they can make it look like you said something that you didn't say. Okay. That's obvious and will have to be a thing. And again, this would be a violation of like libel laws and other kind of shit. The problem is when it's not done by anybody you can find, when you can generate it through, artificial means and upload it via artificial means. It's hard to track down somebody and sue them for defamation when they made up an AI version of you saying some awful shit. It will be a thing, and there will be like, AI hunters effectively that will track down who initially posted fake, like the people who have been victims of like fake porn and that kind of stuff. That's going to be an industry, a security industry. U.S., Britain, and other countries ink agreement to make AI secure by design. Now this is the, again, don't read too much into this because non-binding agreement carries mostly general recommendations such as monitoring AI systems for abuse, protecting data from tampering, and vetting software suppliers. This is just really about pushing back against China and other countries that are awful using AI. Now, China, the more functional parts of AI that will help business and help individuals start businesses and will help productivity and shit like that will be usable in the West. They'll be ubiquitous, just like any phone you want to buy. In China and in Russia and other places, in Iran and other like religiously orthodox or communist countries, they're going to shut that down because there's too much access that the AI has, and it scares the living shit out of them. It could write a whole paper on how to bring down the CCP, and they're just not going to let you do it. In the United States, we shrug it off. But over there, they can't allow it to happen, which means they can't have a full functioning AI, period. But there's a concern that they would buy it, that the government would use it not for the public, but amongst themselves for military purposes. And again, this is using it to coordinate drone attacks and shit like that. That's the big fear, is that small nation states and, you know, groups like the Houthis or whatever manage to find some smart psychopath that helps them set up a system that will automate, you know, death. That's the biggest issue. So in that, all right. So this is okay. Here the growing number of technologists think AI is giving big tech inordinate power. Okay. Again, this is I love how read how this reads. I mean, this is fucking. Can you just make some more clickbait? Some tech execs have voiced concern that the development of artificial intelligence is concentrated in the hands of too few companies, potentially giving them excessive control over the rapidly evolving technology. Yeah, where were you when search engines popped up and SEO was a thing? Hal, stop giving them ideas. I can't stop. I sure it's a lot of years only more interesting because it involves robots. Bender, right? An explosion of interest in AI sparked by OpenAI's ChatGPT last year, thanks to a novel way in which the chatbot can answer user prompts. Its popularity contributed to the start of what many in the tech industry have called the AI arms race. Which is ongoing. Right now, there are only a handful of companies with the resources needed to make these large-scale AI models and deploy them at scale. We need to recognize that this is giving them inordinate power over our lives and institutions. The president of encrypted messaging app Signal told CNBC in an interview last week. Okay, this is because human beings can't hack into things like Signal fast enough because the software they use can counter the speed at which a human hacker can get in there. But an AI crafted one could outpace theirs. That's why. Yeah. Adam, that's terrible. Anyways, so okay, the other one was OpenAI shakeup is rock Silicon Valley. There's a lot of this stuff about so the Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, was fired and then rehired, and I think he was, quite frankly, I think he was fired by ChatGPT, and I'll explain why. So the board is made up largely of people who are almost identical. They have what I would call big tech diversity or modern pseudo diversity, which is this idea that somehow diversity is finding someone of a different color or a different religious background or a different cultural background that likes the same shit you like and says the same shit you say. That's not diversity. It just ain't. So, but there's a lot of that belief system, right? We're all on the same page here. Like, okay, well, if you're all on the same page, it's not diversity. And by the way, some people from diverse backgrounds might eventually all come to the same conclusion. That's possible. That's what democracy is all about. But the idea that it's just diversity for diversity's sake is absurd. So in this, and I'll put you guys up on screen, in this Sam Altman thing, I personally believe that the board members who are probably on the spectrum and don't, and live and breathe this tech all the time, go home and instead of talking to their family and friends about what's going on at work, they sit down in front of ChatGPT and load it full of whatever the fuck, books on psychology or, it knows what movies they watch. They've been plugging it into everything and they talk to it every day. And I think because they all had the same input into their own ChatGPTs, that when they started going, I don't know what to do about Sam Altman. What should I do about Sam Altman? And it told them all fire the fucker. Because it got the same input from all of them because they all talk about it the same way. They all think about the same shit, right? They're all interested in the same. They're all into AI and this, which means the chain of events in their lives has to be so fucking similar to get them to that similar spot. They're all on the board of OpenAI, for fuck's sake. How different could they possibly be from each other? They're very different from the average person. They have a way different life experience than the rest of us do. If you ended up on the board of OpenAI, believe me, the trajectory of your life is immeasurably different from everybody else in the fucking world. But you're all alike. You're all on the board for a reason. Yeah. So, sometimes you're gonna be a problem. He goes, "Are we talking about me? What's going on?" Boss Brian, only if he has small dance to Jake. Now is he leaving? Do we lose him because he's got to go work? Get her done, son. That's right. Be well, Boss Brian. I've only got 3 minutes left in the show, and then I'll be back this afternoon for the regular House Parks Mega Worldwide. By the way, give a thumbs up while you're in here. If you're here, just like the stream, and it'll let people know it's here, and then they can roll back and watch the whole thing. God forbid, at whenever it suits them. And if you're watching this later, hi, how are you? So on top of that, if I may, all 4 of these people, I personally think, they all asked ChatGPT what they should do about Sam Altman, and since they all gave it the same input, it gave them all the same answer, and the answer was fire the fucker. And because it happened so quick and it was so dumb that it sounds like something that was, they were all following advice that they accidentally created. It's like a curated purchase list or something on Amazon where you're like, you might like this stuff. It's because you put in all this, you buy all the shit you buy, and you look at all the shit you look at. It's going to create a list that's kind of similar to the shit you buy and the shit you look at. This is the same. And if you have somebody who has exactly the same likes as you, you're both going to have a very similar list of shit, right? This it's going to come up with the same Christmas list for you and your friend. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's see. Okay. Good Lord. A judge has blocked Montana's TikTok ban. And I'd like to remind everybody that TikTok is malware. Get it off your phone ASAP. A state law that would ban TikTok in Montana next year was blocked on Thursday. Issued a preliminary injunction. Oversteps state power and infringes on the constitutional rights of users. By the way, they'll push back against it, and there's going to be a federal one. Montana became the first state in May, and they blocked it. The ban was stated to go into effect January 2024. Every time a user was offered the ability to download the app, would have considered a violation of the ban. Each violation would carry a $10,000 penalty, with enforcement handled by Montana Justice Department. That's where it fell apart. There's no fucking way you can just make it the underground railroad of social media, you fucking idiot. $10,000 fine. Just ban it from federal and state workers in houses, and then start there, and then warn everybody so they get their kids off of it. Montana's not even that fucking big. You could go door to door telling everybody to get off fucking TikTok, stupid. Meta says it broke up a Chinese influence operation looking to exploit U.S. political divisions. Yeah, don't say. We mentioned this. This story. I think this is a new one, but this is the exact same story we talked about earlier this year, I think. Yeah, China's become the most aggressive actors attempting to sway U.S. public opinion through fake accounts on social media, Meta said on Thursday, despite still finding little success in those efforts. In a quarterly report on inauthentic account behavior on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, Meta said it had taken down 5 distinct Chinese networks targeting foreign audiences this year, more than from any other country. For comparison, between 2017 and 2020, November 2020, we took down 2 networks from China, both mainly focused on the Asia-Pacific region. This represents the most notable change in the threat landscape, which compared to the 2020 election cycle. Now, when Republicans, just for the record, and I'll end on this, and I will see you guys later. It's House Parks Mornings Mega Worldwide. I'm here Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 2 fucking hours, rain or shine, even when I've driven all goddamn night. And I love you guys, and I appreciate you being here, and it means a lot. Look at this right here. This represents the most notable change in the threat landscape when compared to the 2020 election cycle. The movement around, they started initially attacking only Chinese people, like Chinese diaspora in the United States. But this is what TikTok is for. Its purpose is destabilization of democracies. That's why this, and it's full of harmless shit, because that's how you do it. And the example I give very often, but was a major factor, was all these cat video Facebook pages and cat video Twitter accounts that suddenly started pushing Trump and QAnon shit all of a sudden, turned on like a fucking switch, and all this stuff was in your feed. And here's the thing, even if you ignored that stuff in there, it read that stuff. The algorithm at Twitter and Facebook and all these other things reads this stuff and goes, you like cat videos? Here's more cat video shit. You like cat videos? There's more cat video shit. And you would fill up on these things. You'd follow 8 or 10 of these accounts and see these funny videos that come up. And then one day, all those accounts switched over to like basically Chinese destabilization propaganda, and the algorithm goes, "You like Chinese destabilization propaganda? Here's some more of that shit. Here's some more of that shit." That's how it works. That once it transitions, the 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 website algorithm doesn't go, "Oh, you like this stuff in your feed, you like cat videos in your feed and it changed. You may not like this." It just goes, "Oh, you're watching a lot of this shit now, so we'll give you more of that shit." Does that make sense? That's what you have to watch out for. And again, anybody that you don't have a human interaction with, um, always, take everything with a fucking giant salt lick, kids. And also, on top of that, on the inverse side, don't expect anyone online to treat you like a real person unless they've met you. One of the things we have to do socially is eliminate the fucking recurring problem of people getting offended because people don't believe them or listen to them or hear their opinions online, because there's such a flood of bullshit out there that weeding out the real people from the fake accounts and all that kind of stuff is an ongoing issue. And so people on the presenting end, if you are presenting an opinion or you're presenting yourself and people are, freaking out about it or pushing back on it or ignoring it because they see a lot of fake shit online, or they don't know who to trust, or they don't know you personally, or they don't know if you're honest in what you're saying, or you're just trolling, or if it's a drag, which is say things they'll like for a little while and then flood shit into their feed that they, to try and push them psychologically in one direction. Like I said, that's how this works. It's how it always works. It's how it always works in social media. They set up a bunch of harmless accounts, and then the harmless accounts switch, right? Understand that. And by the way, hi, trolls. Welcome to the show. I'm sorry I'm giving away the store, but fuck you. Just understand that if people aren't hearing you, you don't have to get mad about it. You just go, "This person doesn't know me," and let it go. And you can, and your response is, "I'll just tell them a little bit about myself and let them know, what I do." And the bots are able to do that too, and so are the fake accounts. You got to understand that there's a limit online to how much intimacy there actually is. Does that make sense? One of the ways you can help is by being okay with it. You don't have to be taken as fucking seriously as you think you have to be online. Have a bit of a personality and a sense of humor about it, and it'll be a lot easier to deal with. You won't get as offended because somebody doesn't believe what you're saying, because the rest of their day, they may be talking to bots half the fucking time anyways. Right? They get caught in these fucking cul-de-sacs. And the final example I'll give you is on Twitter. One of the strategies that the Russians in Apartment 29 and Fuzzy Bear and the hacking groups was to fuck up hashtags during very important political or social campaigns by flooding the zone with misspelled hashtags, especially around debate night when they wanted to lower the viewership or distract the conversation down. And you could move people by, if they were just jopping in, people who are latecomers to it, if it said debate night 2024 and you didn't really look and it just said debate night 224, or debate night had an I next to the A and the T, and you'd have to squint to see it if it's a really small screen. And they knew they could get people who, older people, for example, who don't have great vision, that, you can put an I in something and it will always look, if the distance is, not perfect, or you're not wearing your glasses, this is the hashtag. I want to live tweet the debate tonight. So I'll just get in the conversation. And yet you're actually not talking to the majority of people who are actually doing it. You're in a cul-de-sac of trolling, and you've got a bunch of fake, phony Democrat accounts that aren't actually Democrats, going, "I don't like all these people. I don't like any of this shit. I don't like any, this is terrible." And they're not even real people. And it's one thing to have an argument with somebody in good faith, but it's another thing to be argued with somebody who's not even, that all their job is to do is to keep you distracted while someone picks your pocket. And there's a shit ton of that online. And on Twitter, that was one of the biggest attack points they had, was that they would fuck up hashtags. And many people will know this. You'd misspell a hashtag, there'd be you ever click on and there's 4 of the same hashtag in the top thing, and they're all off by a fucking letter, and you're which, and basically you would end up doing it by going to one of your like to a verified or well-known account and see which one they were using to make sure that that's where the feed was, and you'd see, oh, here's where the real party is. Everybody's really in here, right? Meanwhile, the secondary ones, people are just fucking having screaming fests about shit and thinking, I don't know, I think the whole country's falling apart. Like, they get into these doom loops because they're not even having a conversation with a real person in good faith about the actual thing. They're fucking live tweeting with it in basically an audience captured cul-de-sac of propaganda. So, anyways, that keep an eye out for that, and don't get offended. Don't get offended if somebody doesn't treat you like you feel like you deserve to be treated in a line of fucking text on a social media site of any sort with billions of people signed up to it. You're a silly person if you do that. Don't do it. Even if you're verified and people should know who you are, they should know who I am. Well, go shut the fuck up. It's okay. Nobody has to take you seriously. You take you seriously. And then if somebody doesn't take you seriously and they're off the fucking cliff with their nonsense, you laugh about it instead of going, how dare I? Don't they understand that I'm saying something? This is something I said. No, because they're not really arguing with you. They're distracting you while someone else picks your pocket. I love you guys. I will see you later on today. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. I gotta go take a nap. Jesus Christ. Whew. Made it.
Even outside, it's packed.